He thought he was rescuing a small, hurt animal, the kind you place in a blanket and carry home with gentle hands. It looked ordinary at first, a trembling shape under a bush, thin breaths, soft sounds. But it wasn't what he thought, not at all, because when its eyes opened, they glowed like distant stars, and the air around it began to hum as if the morning itself had a heartbeat. He whispered, "It's okay, you're safe," and lifted it carefully, but the hum followed him, wrapping around his shoulders like invisible thread. The creature's skin flickered with soft blue light, and faint symbols rippled across its body, lines that seemed to breathe. He felt a pull inside his chest, a feeling he could not name. What should have been a simple act of kindness was actually a door, and once he stepped through, his world would never be the same. If he turned away, the glow would fade, the message would die, and somewhere, far beyond the clouds, a world might fall in silence. If he left the creature to its fate, a chance to save a people he had never met would vanish, and no one on Earth would even know what had been lost. Helping meant danger, shadows in the trees, cold eyes, weapons he did not understand. But not. Helping meant something worse, a quiet disaster that would never be sung about, never written down. He did not ask for this. He did not want it. Yet the moment he felt the creature's weak pulse against his palm, he stood between mercy and ruin. He took a breath, steadied his hands, and chose to act, because sometimes the smallest yes holds the weight of a galaxy. Morning light painted the hills in gold as Calin walked the rocky path toward the forest. He liked mornings. They were quiet. They were honest. He lived alone on the edge of the colony, fixing old machines and helping anyone who asked. People called him kind, a soft soul in a hard world. He never thought kindness would cost much. At the tree's edge, he saw the shape. It was curled under brambles, shivering, its leg twisted at a strange angle. He knelt, speaking softly, and the creature looked up. Its eyes were large and bright. Not wild, not empty, but aware, so aware it frightened him. Thin scratches ran along its body, yet the marks glowed in gentle blue, pulsing like a slow breath. He slipped off his jacket, tucked it around the small form, and carried it home. In his cabin, he cleaned the wounds and wrapped the leg. The creature winced, then grew still, watching him with a focus that made his skin prickle. As evening crept in, the glow grew stronger, washing the walls in blue. There was a hum, too, quiet as a held note, floating just at the edge of hearing. He tried to sleep in the chair, but his eyes kept returning to the blanket where the creature lay. Every time it shifted, light poured from the markings, soft and unreal. He whispered, "Who are you?" The creature answered with a sound that wasn't a word, yet carried a feeling, fear, trust, and a question he could not translate. His chest ached. He was not afraid for himself. He was afraid of failing it. Near midnight, the glow pulsed in time with the creature's breath. A warmth moved through the room and settled over him. For a heartbeat, he felt as if the little being were inside his thoughts, listening. He did not run. He did not look away. He just stayed, because staying was the only promise he could make. Dawn pressed soft light through the shutters. The creature stirred, then lifted its head. A thin beam of blue rose from its chest and painted the air with a flickering image. Stars, ships, a silver world wrapped in light. The images were too fast to understand, too beautiful to ignore. Calin's breath rasped in his throat. This was not a fox, not anything from these hills. This was a message from somewhere else, and he had broken the seal. Outside, far above the hills, a light moved in the pale sky, then vanished. The creature tensed. The hum grew louder. Calin felt the air stretch thin, like the moment before a storm breaks. He stepped to the window. The forest looked the same, but his body knew better. The world had noticed him. He went back to the blanket and knelt. "I'm going to get you help," he said. The creature blinked as if it understood. He packed bandages, water, and food. When he lifted it, it felt lighter than it should, as if some of the weight now rested inside him instead. He stepped into the morning. The wind smelled like rain and metal. Halfway down the path to the stream, branches snapped behind him. He turned, heart hammering. The forest swallowed the sound, then gave it back, closer. The creature pressed into his chest, making a soft, urgent note that was nothing like a growl and everything like a warning. "It's okay," he whispered, but his voice shook. He moved faster. The air crackled. Tiny sparks danced across the creature's skin and vanished. The hum thickened, louder, darker. A low roar rolled through the trees, not animal, not storm, but something built by hands he could not imagine. Calin ran. He cut through the trees, stumbling over roots and stones, clutching the creature as if it were the last ember of a dying fire. The roar chased him. Then he saw figures moving between the trunks. Faint, silent, exact. Armor that caught no light. Red sensors where eyes should be. Weapons that hummed like the air around the creature. The hunters did not shout. They did not threaten. They simply came. Calin veered toward an old shelter he remembered from his walks, half sunk under vines. He ducked inside and set the creature down. It lifted its small head. A stream of light rose again, painting the air with a tiny map. He saw a world of crystal towers and shimmering skies. He saw a symbol like a crown, broken. He saw soldiers in the same armor that stalked the woods. The creature's eyes met his, wide and bright. He did not understand the words that were not words, but the meaning sank into him like rain into dry ground. "Help me. Please." Shadows passed across the shelter wall. The hunters were near. Calin's hands shook, but something else rose to meet the fear, a stubbornness that had never left him. Not when machines failed, not when storms took roofs and fences, not when people needed help and no one else was coming. He stood, found a staff of old wood and planted his feet. "You're not alone," he said. The creature reached out, a small paw that wasn't quite a paw. For an instant, it felt like a human hand. A warm rush moved through him, and the hum shifted key. The door rattled. Calin lifted the staff. A blast of red carved the doorframe. He yanked the creature into his arms and dove through the back where the wall had rotted. They ran. The trees blurred. The hunters followed, silent and certain. When a beam hissed past his shoulder, blue light flared around him like a shell. He didn't question it. He kept moving. With every desperate turn, the creature adjusted the hum, softening the air, bending the path, guiding him. Trust grew between them, not in words, but in the way they stayed alive. They reached a river clearing. Calin stumbled to his knees. The creature slid from his arms, placed both hands on the ground, and a faint blue dome opened around them, like a breath. The hunters halted at the edge, scanners flickering. Inside the dome, the air went still. Calin sucked in cold, damp air and laughed once, a wild, broken sound. "We made it," he said. The creature's glow dimmed, then steadied, as if agreeing. The glow rose and fell like a heartbeat, then rose higher. The small body stretched, shimmered, and changed. Calin pushed himself back, eyes wide. Before him stood a tall, slender figure with luminous skin and blue markings curling along her arms and throat. Her eyes, enormous and radiant, held both fear and kindness. When she spoke, her voice was music shaped into words. "I am Aara," she said, "Princess of Nerithia. You saved me, human, and now our fates are bound." Calin's mouth opened, closed, and opened again. He had rescued a wounded creature. Now a princess stood in his shelter of vines and rot, her glow painting the mud in light. "They're hunting you," he said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Aara said. "Mercenaries. They track my energy. If they take me, they take my world. We have little time." She lifted her hands and showed him more. Cities of crystal singing. With wind, children running through streets that glittered like rivers, a council hall crowned in light. Then fire, armor, the broken crown again. Calin's stomach tightened. "Why me?" he asked. "I'm no soldier." Aara's eyes softened. "Because you did not ask who I was before you helped me. You helped because I was hurt. That is the one thing my enemies do not understand. And that is why I trust you." The dome flickered as if it too had heard and believed. Calin rubbed his palms against his jeans and tried to slow his breathing. He had fixed scrap machines and dragged fallen beams from roofs. He had never fought soldiers from a world of light. But Aara stood there, counting on him. His fear did not leave. It made a home inside his ribs. He decided to carry it anyway. By afternoon, the hunters found the dome's edge again. Their scanners hummed, seeking seams. Aara looked to the river, then to the rocks. "We cannot run forever," she said. "We end this. If we break their line here, we gain time. If we fall, nothing else matters." Calin swallowed, then nodded. They set a plan with few words. He moved through the narrow paths around the riverbank, dragging logs, loosening stones, setting simple snares that would buy seconds. Seconds Aara could turn into shields and strikes. The dome dissolved and the day flowed in. The first hunter stepped into the clearing, weapon ready. Calin snapped a branch. The log swung down and clipped the hunter's shoulder. He stumbled. Aara's hands flashed. A pulse of blue knocked two more from their feet. Red beams tore up dirt where Calin had stood a moment earlier. He rolled, came up and swung his staff into a low trunk. Another trap released spilling rock into a tight pass. The hunters adjusted, precise, relentless. One flanked left, fast as thought. Calin saw a small device on the flanker's belt, something that drank the light around it. He didn't think. He charged, shoulder down, and knocked the device free. It skittered into the river and hissed out. The flanker stumbled. Aara's light surged, a clean wave that sent the front line crashing back. The air shook. Calin's arms ached. He could not count his breaths. He could only keep moving. "Here," he shouted. Aara pivoted, met him without looking. They moved as if they had practiced, as if they had grown up on the same street, as if the same blood ran in their veins. A barrier caught a cluster of shots. Calin's trap stole 3 seconds. Aara turned 3 seconds into a clear strike. The last hunter hesitated, sensors flickering. He vanished into the trees. Silence fell, hollow and bright. Calin dropped to the ground and stared at the sky through the branches. Aara knelt beside him, glow soft and warm now, like sunlight caught in water. "You were brave," she said. "Braver than you know." He shook his head and laughed, breathless. "I was terrified." "Courage is not the absence of fear," Aara said. "It is the choice you made anyway." They did not celebrate. They listened for the sound of returning boots and heard only the river. They left the clearing before dusk and climbed to a ridge that looked over the valley and the wide, patient water. Aara raised her hands, and a small map bloomed between them, a starfield held in a cup of air. She pointed to a place that glimmered like a song. "My home," she said. "If I reach it with time to speak, we may hold the line." "Your help gave me that time." Calin watched the map fade. He thought of his small cabin, of the tools on his bench, of the quiet mornings he loved. He knew those mornings would not be the same now. He did not regret it. "What happens next?" he asked. Aara looked toward the darkening sky. "An alliance," she said. "Not just between worlds, but between the parts of ourselves that choose to care." "You saved me, Calin. You saved more than you can see." A hum rose in the air, different from the hunter's machines, deeper and kinder. A ship slid from the clouds, silent as a held breath, shining like a piece of dawn. Wind pressed against Calin's jacket. He squinted up, heart tight with something like grief and something like pride. "This isn't goodbye," Aara said. "It's the beginning," he nodded. "Then go. And if you need me again, I will find you," she said. She touched his shoulder, warmth spreading through him like light waking stone. For an instant, the blue markings along her arms flared and mirrored on his skin, a faint reflection that vanished when she stepped back. The ship lowered a ramp of light. Aara looked at him one last time, eyes bright with hope and duty, then rose into the sky. The hum softened and the valley grew still. Calin stood on the ridge until the evening swallowed the last glimmer. He listened to the river and the wind in the pines and the far cry of night birds calling the stars awake. He had thought he was saving a pet. Instead, he had sparked an alliance. Somewhere far beyond the blue of his sky, mercenaries would gather again, and councils would argue, and ships would fly. But here, on the edge of the colony, a man had made a choice. He carried that choice home like a lantern. The world felt larger, heavier, and kinder. He closed his door gently, as if not to disturb the light he had brought inside. And though danger still moved in the dark between worlds, hope moved there too, because one human chose to care and did not walk away.